Hey everybody, Patrick Varno here. And today's conversation is really about what can leaders do to address the great resignation. And I want to start this off by first saying that my own belief on this great resignation that we've heard so much about over especially the last 2 quarters, I would say, goes back to the fourth quarter of last year, is that the only thing that has changed in regards to the great resignation in the last 6 months or so is that people have physically left their organizations, have had other opportunities. Other than that, in my work and my experience, the great resignation has been going on for a decade anyway, in that people have been resigning from their positions, emotionally and intellectually for far longer. It's just that they haven't had opportunities to leave where they are. They've stayed. And I know some people might be thinking, well, right now we talk about this is an employee market, right? That employees have the upper hand right now, and they are able to drive a lot of things in terms of, I think, where they want to work, who they want to work, how much they want to get paid for the work that they do. If that changes, if it goes back the other way where employment becomes tighter, that doesn't mean that the great resignation will go away. It will simply go underground. And what I mean by that is people will have to feel as though they're trapped in the job that they're in. They will stay where they are, but they will have resigned. It just won't be physically, which to me I think is more damaging to both the individual and the organization. So what do we do about that? How do we change that? And I want to talk about a model that I use quite often, and I want to talk about a blueprint that I use almost all of the time in the work that I do. The model is called SCARF that I want to talk about, and the blueprint that I'll talk about is cables. How does it relate to SCARF? And in this environment, I think especially over the last 2 years, I think a lot of people have done a lot of soul searching in terms of what do they want? What are they willing to tolerate in a work environment? And to me, it goes back to social needs that we have. And the reason I say that is because I want to talk about a model that I have used for a number of years now, probably 6 anyway, and it's called SCARF. And it was put together or developed by a researcher, a scientist named David Rock. And it's an acronym. It's based on, again, these 5 social needs that he identified that were really foundational for all of us, that we all have these needs. And I think if leaders recognize or understand these social needs that we have, that all of us have, I think it allows leaders to, I think, connect with employees in a way that meets those social needs. So I'll give you my other thought as we talk about leadership, is that I think leadership development too often has focused on the leader. And if we think about this as a product, that if leadership is a product, if you were out selling this product and your customers had to buy this, you would probably do market research to find out what do your customers want. If I'm going to develop, create, market this product that I'm going to sell to them, and we'll call it leadership, this is our product, then I would want to know from the customers, what do they want? Because what I think is important in terms of the leadership product might not be what the market wants. And this is the same thing with leadership, if you think about it, in that the customers for leadership development are followers. Those are the people. That's where your market research needs to be, because it's what's important to them that's going to drive how leaders should be developed. And I don't think we do that enough. We talk about delegation and critical thinking and these things in terms of developing the leader. But if you don't have people that want to follow where you want to go, you're not leading. And I will say want to. Right? That's the key word there, because you can even have the title and people will have to go where you're asking them to go for fear of retaliation or losing their jobs or whatever that might be. But that's still not truly leading when somebody has to follow you. It's the want. to follow you that makes the difference. And again, I think when you take a look at this um, model of SCARF, I think it helps us to identify what are the things that are important to followers. Really not just to followers. I think they're important to all of us. There's social needs that we all have, but each one of them plays a role, I think, in a leader's ability to recognize these and then find ways to satisfy them. So when we talk about SCARF, the first one that we'll talk about is status. That we have a need for status, and this isn't about a title. This goes deeper than that. This really is about feeling a sense of worth, that I am respected, that I'm valued for what I'm doing. And when we don't have status, when we don't feel as though we're valued, I think it's easier in this environment right now to decide to go somewhere else. I'm going to look for something else because I don't feel as though I'm respected where I am. My opinions aren't respected here. I'm ridiculed. My boss embarrasses me, whatever that might be. But if you don't feel a sense of status, then we contribute, I think, to this great resignation, this physical great resignation that we're seeing now. So the next one is around certainty, that we want to know what the rules of the road are, what can be expected here. And I think onboarding plays an important role here in organizations to create a sense of certainty. What is expected of me? How do we behave toward each other? And if there's incongruence, if some people follow rules and other people don't have to, then to me, that impacts our ability to have certainty, right? I don't know what to expect when I show up here, how I'm going to be evaluated, how I'm going to be judged, or other things along those lines. So certainty becomes important. That's the C in the SCARF model. So the next one is around autonomy. We're seeing that more and more, right? In regards to people that want to work from home, want to have a hybrid type of environment. If we don't find ways to create autonomy, that people feel as though they have some ability to control their destiny, so to speak, then we're going to lose people, right? You're going to have people that are going to look for other environments where that can be satisfied. And this is not about saying that everybody gets to just sort of show up and do whatever they want to do. But there are opportunities here where I think we can provide much more autonomy, that rather than micromanage people, we're giving people the opportunities to say, here's the problem. How would you solve this? What do you think we can do? Here's what we're proposing that we do, or here's what the guidelines are asking you to do. Is there a better way that you think you can do this? And when you provide that sense of autonomy for people, you elevate their level of engagement, right? Somebody feeling as though they can use maybe sort of some additional skills or talents they have, or be able to think of how to solve problems, then that elevates somebody's levels of autonomy. So when we move on now in regards to SCARF, we move on to relatedness. This is about connection, right? In a sense of inclusion or belongingness. If we're not creating an environment where people feel connection, that they're part of what's going on, their relatedness to an environment, then we're making it easier for people to want to leave for maybe some more money, because I don't feel a connection here anyway. It's going to be easy. If I can make 10, 15, 20% more than I'm making now, even maybe more than that, then I have nothing that's holding me back. To me, I think one of the greatest things that we can do in terms of immunizing ourselves against turnover, people leaving, is create an environment where people want to be a part of it. They feel connected to it, the relatedness, right? When we do that, people generally are less likely to want to leave just for a few more dollars, when we've created that sense of community or culture, right? And then the last one here in the SCARF model is around fairness, right? In creating an environment where people are treated the same, right? There aren't different rules for different levels, or some people get passes on not following the rules, and other people get held completely accountable to them, right? There's fairness in this. And, a lot of the things that are going on right now in the market right now, or in the organizational world is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, if you think about that SCARF model, right, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, that status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness, it hits on all of those, right? All of those needs that we have. That when, as a leader, you recognize those things, you're able to address it. Now, once we've sort of identified that SCARF model and how each of those social needs probably impact the people that we're hoping will follow us, there are behaviors that we can demonstrate that build this bridge with with our employees. I've recently written this book, the Leadership Bridge, which is how to engage your employees and drive organizational excellence. And a foundational component of this book is around this model that I developed over a decade ago called cables. And it's based on 6 researched behaviors that I think satisfy the social needs of SCARF and build better bridges with each employee, each individual that we interact with. And I think when you look at it that way, imagine that each of the relationships you have with those people around you are bridges. And the cables model is meant to be an acronym or an image as well of when you demonstrate consistently these 6 cables, think about it like a suspension bridge that you're building with each of those that are around you that you need to follow you. The more you behave consistently with these 6 behaviors, the stronger that bridge is going to become. Without question, the stronger that bridge is going to become. And I think we need to start looking at it that way, that if we want to create an environment where we attract, we retain, and we develop the best of the best, it's going to require us to satisfy those social needs and to behave in ways that allows that to happen. So in the cables model, congruence is that first C in this. Do I walk the talk? If I'm not walking the talk, if what I say and what I do is not the same thing, then I'm not building this bridge, and I'm probably damaging one of those social needs that we have. I'm neglecting one of those. The next is around appreciation. When we're demonstrating or recognizing people for who they are and what they do, then we are creating a stronger bridge. Now, if I relate this back to the social model there of SCARF, that can come into play with certainty, right? Knowing that I get recognized for what I do, or it could come down to relatedness. It could deal with fairness, that I feel like I'm adequately recognized or compensated for what I do here. It plays a role in that. So the next we talk about belongingness. Belongingness is about creating a sense of inclusion, and that often can take place when I behave in ways that create an environment of psychological safety. Because when I've created as a leader an environment where it's psychologically safe, people feel as though they can contribute and speak in ways that they feel free to do that. That really the organization benefits. So if we go back to SCARF, that can come into play with autonomy. That can come into play with relatedness, obviously, with certainty that I know that I've got an ability to speak up here. It can come into play with status, right? Do I feel valued here, right? Is what I say valued? As simple as that. So next we move on to listening, right? And listening really has 4 components in the model that I use. It's listening with our ears, with our eyes, with our mind, and with our heart, or with empathy. And when we're listening in all 4 of those, we certainly satisfy generally somebody's level of status, because when we listen with all 4 of those, we're fully invested in that person. So we demonstrate a level of respect to them when we do that. Next, we move on to empathy. When we demonstrate empathy in the cables model, we're building that stronger relationship bridge. This is about really imagining what would it be like if I was in that person's shoes? What if I was the follower? How would I want to be treated? What would I want to be told or involved in terms of what's going on that obviously that I can, but it's vital. We need that, right? And then lastly, it's around specifics in terms of cables. And specifics is all about demonstrating an environment where I'm setting clear expectations and there's ownership to whatever those clear expectations are or accountability. This is the same thing in regards to satisfying one of those social needs. It could be certainty, right? That if we have clear expectations, there is certainty that's been provided here. You know what to expect, positively and negatively here. You know what to expect because there have been clear expectations that have been set up and they're followed, right? So we're now back to the beginning again. If you think about it from the standpoint of cables, that when I set clear expectations and I follow through on them, then I've satisfied congruence as well. I walk the talk. What I say and what I do is the same thing. As an organization, what we stand for and what we hold each other to are the same things. That builds certainty. It also builds fairness oftentimes. And when we're doing that, right, when we're behaving in those 6 ways, when we're building that bridge with our employees, we're using cables to do that. And when we're building that bridge, we're naturally satisfying that SCARF model, those 5 social needs that we all have. And by doing that, right, by satisfying those social needs through that cables model, we're creating an environment where we're going to certainly reduce the amount of people who are going to want to leave this organization. We're creating an environment where there's a culture that people want to come to work, right? They want to show up here. They want to stay here, and they know that they'll be treated fairly. They'll be able to develop here. It works on all levels. So I'll challenge you as you go forward. Think about the relationships you have. Think about them as bridges, right? Each one of those as an individual bridge. And then think of those social needs. How are you doing in regards to satisfying the social needs, probably of that individual? And then lastly, using cables, those behaviors that we talk about, to create an environment where you're building a stronger bridge. If you want to see more about this, on my website, there is a test you can take there. It's 8 questions you can ask to see how strong your bridge is, and it will help to sort of create a stronger connection with those people around you and help you start to build that bridge. So I hope you found this helpful. I look forward to our next conversation. I'm going to follow up round 2 as it relates to performance improvement plans. There was a lot of feedback on that, and some ideas on how to address those and really be effective when we do that. So until that, hope you enjoy this and you're able to go out there and rise.